Okay, so the final thing that we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit of organic animation to this. So at the moment it's just going A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, but what we want is some sort of, oscillation with the action of the arms. So how do we do that? Well, let's have a look at the curves. It's very similar to what we were doing with some of the other exercises. You know how we offset the animation for the wrecking ball? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do here. But we're going to do something a little different. What I want you to do first is we're going to load in the curve editor, so the graph editor. If the graph editor doesn't come up, like this one doesn't, just go back into animation editors and do tracks editor. And then over here, just click on the icon either for dope sheet or for the graph editor, and it will toggle between the two. I'm just going to middle mouse button and just roll out a little bit, and you can see here that these are the keys that I've got for this. Let's just pick, say, this one item right here, the shoulder. Okay, now what I need to do is I want this to be an ongoing cycle so that this just constantly loops, because when I start to offset this animation, what's going to happen is the animation is just going to stop. It's not playing in these keys here. So by offsetting the animation with it in cycle mode, this animation will continue for unlimited number. It's like an infinite setting. So the way that you can actually do that is if you select these curves, you have to select the curves, then go into, well, first of all I have to figure out where it is because I haven't done this in a while. We have to go into pre-infinity, so you go into curves in the graph editor and you go pre-infinity, you say cycle, and then you go post-infinity and you say cycle. Now you might not be able to see it, but this is, that's because we have to do one more step. The reason that we can't see it, and I don't know why they do this, it's a two-step process. You have to go into view in the graph editor, and then you have to turn on infinity. And you select that, and then you can see here we actually have this infinite cycle. So what that means is if I was to say, let's make this 222 frames, like this, the character's going to just animate up into up to frame 36, but the shoulder is going to keep animating forever. And I'll show you what happens if I play it. Okay, and that's because just that one controller, we've set that to post-infinity and pre-infinity. So what we can do is we can select all of these. I'm just going to region select around everything. And then I'm just going to zoom out, region select around everything here. So I've got all of the animations selected in these curves. I'm going to go into cycle, I'm going to go pre-infinity cycle, and then I'm going to go back into curves and I'm going to go post-infinity cycle. And then, whoops, if I just play the animation, the character will just cycle through and do that forever. Okay. Now what you should do probably though is after you've done that, just save that as a new scene. I'm just going to put this back to 36. So yeah, just give it a new name. Just call it, cycle. You've already put it in cycle. And then the next step that we're going to do is we're going to offset this. So if you stuff it up, you don't have to go back in and do all of this again. You can just open up that scene file. I'm going to start to offset this animation. And what I might do is I might actually just start with the hips. Now at the moment we've got the hips are just moving up and down and forward and back. Okay, but what if I was just to say take the up and down action of the hips and offset it by say 1/4 of a cycle? I don't want to offset it completely half, but somewhere on a quarter I think might be interesting. So I've just selected that, and then region select around it. I'm going to hit the shift key and the middle mouse button when I move it. I'm just going to move it half a cycle like this, and let's just have a look and see what that did. Okay, so what that's done, because I've done it on a quarter, it's actually creating a circle now. Okay, there's other ways that you can get it to say move in a figure 8 if you wanted to, so that it does this forward and back. You could try that. Let's see if we were to undo this, and let's say if we the forward and back is this one here. What happens if we move this? That's still doing it. Oops, sorry. You can just have fun with it and just see what happens when you start to move it, say half a cycle. Half a cycle is doing something different. Okay. But for this one, we'll have to do it a quarter of a cycle. I'll show you something that might be of interest. If you wanted it to be a figure 8, what we have to do is the figure 8 is actually going to bob up and down twice in a cycle. So what you could do is, if we just go back to the up and down, is that the up and down? No, Y is up and down. Okay, there we go. And if I was to just say take this knot here, you know what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make that the same, and I'm just going to insert, just using this. I'll just bob that down just there. Looks like it might just need to be offset there. And then I'm just going to go here, and I'm just going to bob that one down again like this, and let's have a look and see what happens. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got this kind of waving sort of thing going. So he's moving backwards and forwards, but if I take that now and I offset it, we kind of get a little bit of a figure 8 where the hips are bouncing forwards and back. You see that? So the up and down needed a double, while the forward and back just needs a single. So you could try that if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave that in there for now. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at this arm. Okay, so this arm is pretty cool. I like what that's doing. I'm just going to offset this forward and back action just by, say, a quarter again. Now, I'm just offsetting it from the top arm, the timing of the top arm. So this forward and back is green, or rotate Y. And if I just offset that, say a quarter, that looks like a quarter. Sometimes it's just a good idea just to let it run, and then just, you know, move it around a little bit while it's working. And that's looking pretty cool. So that was just a quarter using the bottom, or using the forearm, and just offsetting that. Now if I was to do the same thing for the back arm, and just play this, and I'm just going to move this by, let's just say a quarter as well, and see what that does. Actually, I moved it by about 6 frames. I don't want them to be doing the same thing at the same time, but that's looking pretty cool. So now we've got this kind of locomotion thing going on. The other parts of the body that we animated was the torso. Nope, I didn't do anything on that part. That's a bit lazy of me. Sure I did. You know, let's just say that you haven't done something on a part of a body. You could actually just introduce it later on if you want to. So let's say with this one, I haven't rotated. The trick with it is, though, is always remember to go back to the middle frame, so frame 18 in this case, and then just give it a little bit of rotation. Say something like this, and maybe just down a little bit. And then just select one of the axes. You don't select all of them. I'm just going to select the twist, which is this one here, and I'm just going to offset that by 1/4. And I'm just going to see how that looks. Yeah, it's not too bad. It looks a little hokey. Let's see. What was the... so this one, what happens if I offset this one forward 1/4? And we'll see what that does. Yeah, that's looking... That's not too bad. I was going to say it looks a little funky. Yeah, it is looking a little funky. Let's see what happens if I think what it might be is it's just the head is down at that part. So I'll need to counter animate that so that he's always looking up. Yeah, that looks better. So the head is just a little bit more stabilized. Although now he's kind of rocking his head backwards and forwards like that. So if you wanted to, you could stabilize the head. And the way to do that is just to select this one here. And we could offset that by 1/4 of a frame as well. And let's just see what that does. It's not too bad. Yeah. Look, it's that simple. You just start with a really cool pose, and then you do another very subtle B pose, and then just offset one of the axes of rotation just by, say, 1/4 of a cycle, and you can get something which seems pretty organic. Remember, for the doubles for this figure 8, you'll need like a double bounce, but for everything else, I mean, you can pretty much just have, you know, one key at the beginning, one in the middle, and a key at the end. Okay, guys, give that a try. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you've got.